The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome to the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we discuss the latest news and info the Feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever gets you rolling and keeps you rolling. Just make sure you roll with us. And we will tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We're your hosts. I'm Dan Sipe, and I am joined by the incredible and irrepressible Katelyn Murray.
Hello, hello. Welcome,
Katelyn,
everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. As you were mentioning, our little intro of grab your coffee or green juice, I'm realizing I sat down with nothing to drink. I'm looking around on my desk and all I have is a lovely, refreshing can of brine shrimp for my beta fish, who is...
You got to tell us that, you got to let us know about the new assistant that you have.
Yes, she's the newest employee of Serving Those Who Serve, and she's just here on my desk as of yet unnamed, but very happy in her little leaf bed. And she's got her little protein brine shrimp to make her colors bright. So, hopefully nobody is listening to us while snacking on brine shrimp. But if so, good job getting your protein in for the day.
And don't feel a lot of pressure on the name, because as I shared with you previously, when we started talking fish, my daughter, close to like 12 years ago, won a fish at the county fair. And we didn't bother naming the fish because I just knew the fish wasn't going to survive. So I kept making deals with the fish. It's like, okay, well, if you're here this long, I'll get you a bowl. If you're here this long, I'll get you a bigger bowl. The fish is now like in a 60-gallon bow front tank, all by himself, herself, fancy tail goldfish, and still named Fish.
There you go.
So fish knows who he, she is. So always gets very excited when we walk over with the food. So
indeed. Yeah. I might name her Rose just because of that quote about that which we'd call a rose were it not named so would smell just as sweet. I'm sure she would smell just as fishy.
What's a Capulet or a Montague?
Anyway. Oh, well, we've got some interesting stories to cover for you on this episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about crypto since everybody is really interested in it these days. There's kind of a lot going on there. We're going to talk through that. And then Dan is going to talk with us about a really, really popular topic, kind of an evergreen content kind of niche for us. Seems to be something feds are always interested in, which is what are the best states for federal retirees? So we're going to talk through some of that. We're also going to give you some perspective on picking states based on tax planning. But before we get to that, let's talk crypto. So we've had some recent executive orders that have kind of brought crypto into the spotlight. Obviously, the current administration is pretty crypto forward, shall we say. Recently, there was an executive order signed to do with allowing cryptocurrency in qualified retirement plans like 401ks and the TSP. So that kind of dovetailed. We didn't plan it that way, but it dovetailed perfectly with this article that we released on the blog about cryptocurrency in your portfolio and really kind of zeroing in whether federal employees should consider adding digital assets to their investment portfolio. So right up top, cryptocurrency is a very volatile asset, and they lack the stability that is really important for long-term retirement planning, okay? So if you're coming for the hot new tips on buying and selling Ethereum, you're not going to get them here. I just have to tell you right up front. There are lots of short-term success stories that we hear about. But here's the thing. People love to talk about winning. People don't love to talk about losing. So for every crypto millionaire that you see on Facebook or Instagram, there's a ton of folks who have invested money and lost it. And often, unfortunately, folks who maybe have invested too much money and now have kind of put themselves in a difficult position. So a couple risks and regulatory considerations that we need to look at. Crypto investments do not have the protections that are offered by traditional retirement accounts like TSPs or IRAs. But Katelyn, you just said that there was an executive order signed about allowing those assets in qualified retirement accounts. It is totally unclear how that would work out from a regulatory protection standpoint. Because the crypto is being held in a qualified retirement plan, would that mean that it is covered by ERISA? We don't know. So that has yet to kind of be ironed out there. So just word to the wise on that. Because crypto is not insured, returns obviously are not guaranteed. That's true of any investment that you're kind of putting money into that's not a cash or cash-like investment. And regulatory rules can change very quickly around cryptocurrency because it is an emerging asset class. Now, on July 17th of this year, the Genius Act was passed by Congress, which would set federal standards for crypto exchanges and stablecoins. Okay. And that kind of goes back to that executive orders and the piece of legislation that I was talking about as far as, signing that into law to set some federal standards there. There's additional legislation that's currently under review called the Stablecoin Transparency and Reform Act. So regulatory oversight with regard to cryptocurrency, this kind of emerging asset class, is still evolving. So we would still consider crypto a high risk, low protection asset for retirement purposes. Okay. So can I tell you that no serving those who serve client has any crypto anywhere in their portfolio at all? Well, I can't tell you anything about what serving those who serve clients have.
Exactly.
However, there are folks who want to buy and sell crypto to learn about it, right? There are folks who really, crazy people who actually find finance fun and they want to learn about it. And to that, I would say it's gambling rules, right? When you go to a casino, go in with the amount of money that you're okay walking out without, right? Yep. For me, that's $40. I go to the casino, I have $40. That'll get me a couple of rounds of blackjack. If I'm lucky, a little bit more. And then I walk out either with $40 or with nothing. It's the same kind of thing with cryptocurrency. If you're going to do this, I would set up a separate brokerage account. I would handle that obviously on your own. We don't recommend it for our clients. And I certainly would not factor those funds into any kind of long-term retirement planning or financial planning for yourself. It's really kind of just a learning experience. Cryptocurrency is generally, as far as general as I can be, it's generally not suitable for most federal retirement portfolios. You want to give priority to proven strategies, funding your TSPs, funding your IRAs, and then using a diversified mutual fund portfolio, right? You want to make sure that you're diversified across the market. It's meat and potatoes investing. It is not as sexy as crypto, and it's not as good for cocktail talk, but it is sustainable over time, that routine rebalancing. It's a prudent way to potentially grow your wealth and certainly much less risky than a speculative asset like crypto by virtue of the diversification. So if you are interested in including crypto, again, gambling rules, it should be a very small portion of your portfolio that is kind of set aside and segregated. And then, for your financial planning purposes, you want to use your well-diversified assets. Professional advice from a fiduciary financial planner is absolutely recommended before you put any allocation to crypto, because if you are way behind on funding retirement, playing around with crypto is not really a priority, okay? So talk to a financial advisor, make sure that you have things in order, make sure that you know where you stand with your financial planning goals before we start cordoning off money to kind of play. I realize that crypto is really intriguing. I realize that there's a lot of buzz about it right now. I want you to understand that it's not essential for long-term federal retirement planning. Stay focused on understanding your benefits so that you can get the most out of them. Steady saving, diversifying your investments, and using the tools that you have available to you, like the TSP, maxing that out, getting the full employer match, etc. Remember that crypto can rise quickly and it gets very exciting, but it can fall just as fast, and people get quiet when it falls.
Sure.
Okay. Retirement security is built on consistent and informed decisions over time. And again, I always recommend, checking in with a fiduciary Fed-focused financial planner to help you understand where you are in your retirement planning journey. And if you don't know anybody, I know a great guy named Dan Sipe who would love to talk to you about that. You can email us at meetings@stwserve.com about that.
Yes. Don't let the gray whiskers fool you. I actually went through the digital assets certification training. So the one thing I like to put a bow on this is, number one, if you go back to the original white paper that Satoshi wrote, it was never meant to be an asset class.
Mm.
It was meant to be a reliable and stable medium of exchange. And it's been anything but that. And so that is not a judgment statement. So it's been a surprise that it turned out this way. However, keep in mind that there is the coin aspect of it, but then there's also what I consider to be the transformative nature of distributed ledger technology. And if you're just thinking crypto, you're truly missing the whole picture because, case in point, anybody that's ever bought a house, there's a whole lot of paperwork there that's related to proving that the person who had the house truly owns it. Those are the types of things that distributed ledger technology can change over time. Sending money to relatives in another country, this is something that it can flatten it out, make it much more economical. So there's a whole lot there. So I want to be clear, I'm not the old man yelling at kids to stay off my lawn. You should make it your point to know and understand this all the way around. And then, and only then, are you in a position to begin to try and make informed decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. I mean, I think, I always tell clients when we talk about this in meetings, like it's possible that crypto could be its own asset class 10 years from now. What's difficult about where we're at right now is that we're not really in a regulatory environment where there's a whole lot of security in place around it. And so we're kind of, we're on the early side of that. And I think putting any significant amount of your retirement savings into something like that is so kind of unregulated in some cases and probably something that's more accurate to say at this point where we are right now is inconsistently regulated. That's definitely a concern. And I mean, we could turn this into a whole podcast on digital currency. I think it's important, like Dan's saying, is look at the infrastructure that allows cryptocurrency to exist rather than the cryptocurrency itself. That's an interesting rabbit hole to fall down, but I'm going to exercise discretion and not fall down it. Instead, Dan, I would like you to tell me where I can move as a federal government employee or retiree where I can pay the least amount of tax so that I can structure my whole life around that decision.
Okay. No. No, I'm not going to do that. So I want to head off the hate mail. We're going to talk about best possible states to retire, assuming other than one where you presently reside. First off, when you generate a list, there's a beginning to it, there's an end to it, and whoever you left off is going to be ticked. So make out your hate mail right now. You can send it to ask@stwserve.com. Please put in the subject line, Dan is a moron. Okay. So I'll know to grab it and you're fine. What I'm hoping to do with this is I will have some examples here. That doesn't mean this is the only list. And I'm sure there's some place where you're living that you love and I shouldn't have overlooked it. And that's exactly my point, because it's not always about what's the tax rate or things like that. So kicking it off, lifestyle goals versus financial considerations, because this is hopefully the rest of your life. So one of the things that I've observed as a healthy card-carrying boomer, you know what I've learned about boomers? Boomers left their parents, but they follow their children. So I meet boomers here in the greater DC area, and they came from somewhere else. Their folks live in Ohio or Pennsylvania or New York or wherever. And then when I say, will you stay here in retirement? I wish I had a nickel, truly wish I had a nickel for the number of times over 37 years that I have heard depends on where the kids are.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Yep. And that's, and it's trickling down. It's outside of boomers now, but boomers just ran with it. So retirement location decisions often center around lifestyle factors such as proximity to family, but also climate, space, pace of life. Yes, the state taxes can significantly affect how far pensions, TSPs, and those other savings will go. But a no income tax state is not just an automatic stamp, because sometimes you may find that higher property taxes, sales taxes, and other fees, everybody's got to pay for stuff, folks. Everybody's got to pay for stuff. So the goal is to balance quality of life with that long-term affordability. So which means admitting an incomplete list of some tax-friendly states. So, for example, Florida, a no state income tax, lower sales taxes than many southern states, have a competitive property tax rate, and based on the tax foundation, they're fourth in tax competitive, and it's popular for a warm climate and retirement communities.
I was going to say, yeah, the beach isn't bad either. So.
Yep. Texas, and one of our team members is a proud Texan.
Mm-hmm.
No state income tax ranks 7th in tax competitiveness. Property tax, 1.47, and a combined state and local sales tax of up to 8.2%. So that's another place where it can sneak into or off of a list. One that I'll bet you right now, not every Fed is thinking about. Wyoming ranks first in state tax competitiveness. No state income tax, average sales tax 5.44, property tax rate 0.55, no state inheritance or estate tax. Alabama, no tax on Social Security or federal pensions. So that's FERS and CSRS. Does tax TSP distributions. Pressing on. We're in the DC area. Our neighbor to the north, Pennsylvania, is frequently considered a tax-friendly state. Okay. Doesn't tax Social Security benefits, withdrawal from retirement accounts, or pension income. So that's CSRS and FERS. And again, I'm not drilling down. This article's there. I commend you. Please go read up on it. As Katelyn pointed out, as we were preparing, another one of our neighbors, Delaware, very, very popular. One of our founding people from serve an LSA, retired to Delaware. No tax on Social Security or railroad retirement. And there are partial tax exemptions for other retirement income, no sales tax, low property taxes. Some nice things to have to consider there.
Also beach in Delaware. Just
yes,
saying.
Also
beach watch. There's
whoa. You didn't say beach in Texas. You got to say beach in Texas. And I know.
We hit big sky country quickly. Right.
Yep.
With Wyoming.
Yep.
So horses is what I think of when I think of Wyoming. I know it's probably not accurate at all. I've never been there. Sure. It's a lovely place.
Absolutely. So let's pull it back in. So it's not just taxes. And yes, I didn't list all 50 states. So I'm sure I missed one. And remember, Dan is a moron in the subject line. So, and actually, if somebody does send one of those, assuming it's not profane, I will read that on a future podcast. Okay. So if somebody actually does send me something with don't beat me up too badly because I may cry on camera. So again, taxes are important, but only one factor. Consider climate. This is going to get some people mad at me. Consider risk of natural disasters, because there are some places that have more of one thing than another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's something important to consider about housing affordability, proximity to those loved ones. Speaking for myself, the climate couldn't be good enough if it was a situation where I didn't see my kids or my future grandbabies as much as I wanted to. Okay, another thing to think about, and people tend to miss this, access to healthcare. What's the caliber of the healthcare where you are? Okay, what's it like in that ER? Because yes, you'll have your docs. So when everything's under control, everything's nice, that's great. But understand what your local hospital system is like. That can outweigh tax benefits. Recreation, community involvement. How easy is it going to be for you to make friends there? Alone, some people are built for it. Okay, not everybody. So keep that in mind in addition with the overall cost of living. And here we go. There's no single best state for all retirees. I said it. There you go. Okay. So if you disagree, remember, Dan is a moron. It depends on your personal priorities and goals. Take time, evaluate taxes, lifestyle, essential services. Okay. And you may want to have a comprehensive review. And if you're looking for somebody to walk you through that process, we are happy to do that. Hit us up at meetings@stwserve.com. We will help you any way we can. So there you go. I've lit that fuse. Let's see how many people think I'm an idiot.
I will say, as far as, looking at how the state that you do choose to retire in, like, let's say you have had a lifelong dream that you're going to move to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. That's a really popular location right now. And everybody from like the DC metro area loves to go down to the Outer Banks on vacation and then, retire there. So if that's your dream, you should take into account how it will impact things from a tax perspective. And for example, the comprehensive financial plans that we put together for clients at STWS absolutely illustrates, the switch in state tax situation from Maryland, if that's where you are now, to North Carolina or to Florida or to Wyoming. You should look at how that impacts the overall picture, but you'd never want to let the tax tail wag the dog on your decisions for your life. Just like you don't want to let the financial, piece of it outweigh everything else. What's really important is what you want to do with the one commodity that you can't get any more of, which is time. And unfortunately, you don't know how much of it you have left. So it's really important to make decisions that tie back to your goals and values and then figure out the financial piece of it, right? You don't want to ignore the financial piece of it, but you also don't want that to make the decision for you. Too often, I see feds coming at the decision of where should I live in retirement from the perspective of how do I pay as little tax as possible. And I can tell you that when you are at the end of your time, the last thing you're going to be thinking about is how much you paid in taxes.
Sure.
Okay. So make sure that you're making those decisions with your goals and values in mind, and then do the brainy work of making the finances fit it. And if you need help with that, our team is here, of course, to help. So that is all the time that we have for today's episode, but we'll be back next week to bring you all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
And be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel or Spotify. It helps us out. It helps your friends out. It helps everybody. It makes the world a better place. So you never miss an episode. And please, please, please remember to share it with your friends and colleagues.
For more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. While you're there, you can subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, so that you can get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every week.
Absolutely. And don't forget those live webinars. We've got them up pretty much every single week, a couple that are coming up that you won't want to miss. On September 4th will be our ever popular first webinar from 1 till 4, featuring the one and only Katelyn Murray hosting. And then on September 11th, we have our not as popular as FERS, but we never forget it, tax webinar, which will go from 1 till 4. And that is the amazing Jen Meyer, who will be hosting that. Sign up for one, sign up for all. And if you are looking for the personal touch and you want that individual education and conversation about your benefits, hit us up at meetings@stwserve.com. We will get you set up. As soon as I jump off here, I'll be doing some. Yes, OG is coming off the bench. So you might get stuck with me if that happens, but absolutely hit us up there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Fed15. I remain Katelyn Murray.
And I'm still Dan Sipe.
And we'll see you next week.